Welcome to Perfectville, your first place podcast for your last place Miami Dolphins, part of the BLEAV network, presented by Fanduel. I am Sam Marcoux, and we are getting you kick-off ready for week 2, the home opener for your Miami Dolphins against the AFC East rival New England Patriots. Both teams come in 0-1, but both teams feeling a certain kind of way after that loss in week 1. Of course, the Miami Dolphins lost badly to the Indianapolis Colts on the road. The New England Patriots lost to the Raiders, but they had some good that they can build on. They had some bad that they can try to fix. And they're going to try to get right against the Miami Dolphins in Miami during September, where recent history has not been kind to the New England Patriots. It's been much kinder to the Miami Dolphins when these two teams have hit one another on the football field. The Miami Dolphins are looking to get right after a really, really bad week 1 and try to stomp down and stamp out some of the rumors about Tyreek Hill being traded, Mike McDaniel being fired, and this whole entire game that is the Miami Dolphins getting hit with the reset button here. So lots of narratives going into this one, lots of narratives that will be coming out of this one. Hopefully good things for the Miami Dolphins, but we're going to get all the way into it. I'm going to get you kickoff ready because in just a few hours, a lot of these questions that we'll have on this podcast, a lot of the questions that you have reading the blogs, reading the newspapers, watching the sports shows, they're going to be answered, or at least closer to being answered, because the Miami Dolphins play football yet again in just a few hours against those New England Patriots. So let's talk about it. Let's get into it. Let's figure out where this game is going to go and how it's going to be decided. So I've talked about it a lot this week. If you've been seeing some of the shorts that I've been throwing out on YouTube, which, by the way, if you're not watching on YouTube and you're just listening to this, we appreciate it. Thank you. But if you'd like to see the video of the show, we are now posting all of all of the episodes on YouTube. Just type in Perfectville Podcast. It'll get you there. Like and subscribe. We're trying to grow that. We're trying to get more interaction with all of you, the citizens of Perfectville. So right now, what we're going to talk about is the fact that the Miami Dolphins, under Mike McDaniel, are 5-1 against the New England Patriots. That's a pretty good record. I think that's tiptoeing into ownage territory. Now, that's 2 different head coaches for the New England Patriots as well, right? Jared Mayo, Gerard Mayo, and Bill Belichick. Mike McDaniel has owned both of them. Granted, this is post-Tom Brady, and that seems to be the key. But either way, no matter how you slice it, Mike McDaniel knocks him down just about every single time the New England Patriots get set up in front of him. Furthering that point, Tua Tagovailoa is as a starter 7-0 against those same New England Patriots. Undefeated. A perfect record for your Tua Tagovailoa fans out there against the New England Patriots, against an AFC East rival, against one of the teams that you absolutely have to beat. Tua Tagovailoa is undefeated as the quarterback of the Miami Dolphins. Guess what? He'll be playing in just a few hours against those same Patriots. Can he make it half a season? Can he make it 8-0 against the New England Patriots? That's the question of the day. He's going to have to if he wants Mike McDaniel to keep his job. Mike McDaniel's going to have to figure out a way to scheme and play and coach better if he wants to keep his job. Because you can't lose to the New England Patriots if you're the Miami Dolphins. You can't reverse the things that you have been doing well and expect things to stay the same in terms of employment. You just can't. I talked about it earlier this week when I had Christopher Price from the Boston Globe here on the show, co-host of the Patriots Report. And I said, look, Mike McDaniel cannot save his job by beating the Patriots, but he can lose his job by losing to the Patriots, a team he has traditionally owned, a team that Tua Tagovailoa has never lost to. So if you're looking at this team year over year, game after game, and you see all of a sudden, this is a team that you used to beat, and now you're not. That is a metric. That is a data point. That is something, if you're Stephen Ross, you have to take a look at and say, you know what? It might be time to change again. So that's where the Miami Dolphins are at in this game, week 2. It's a must-win game. for this franchise because the national media has already got their hooks in. The national media is already saying it's a broken down team. It's a team that doesn't listen to the coach. You've got Rex Ryan, a guy who has never met a foot that he doesn't love, going on national TV and calling the head coach Nerd Boy. Which, by the way, if I'm Mike McDaniel, I am figuring out a way to get Nerd Boy printed on a hoodie, and I'm walking the sidelines rocking a Nerd Boy hoodie and selling it because that might be my only source of income if this goes bad in a couple of hours. But I would own it. I would own it if I was Mike McDaniel, especially if the Dolphins do beat the Patriots. You got Stephen A. Smith, one of the voices that people listen to on the national stage, saying changes are coming to Miami. You have rumors of Tyreek Hill being traded before the trade deadline sometime this season. Now, there's reports coming out refuting that, saying, look, the Dolphins haven't received any calls. They have no interest in trading Tyreek Hill. But the fact that they have to address it on some level, clandestine or otherwise, tells you this is a whirlwind of activity around the Miami Dolphins that is not centered on how they are winning and beating teams. It's centered on the dysfunction. It's centered on the miscommunications. It's centered on the wrong paths that they have taken when it comes to draft picks and trades and free agent signings and who they should have had and who they didn't get and all of those other things that comes with a team that's on the run, on their heels, because this rebuild has started to come off the rails. That's the narrative that the Miami Dolphins, your Miami Dolphins, citizens of Perfectville, are going to attempt to stop. And they can do that by beating the New England Patriots. Not fully, not all the way. But they can start to slow down that national momentum of piling on and piling over and piling through the Miami Dolphins. If you go out and you not only beat the Patriots, but beat them convincingly. Leave no doubt. Beat them by double digits, 10 points or more, and say, we aren't done yet. That's how the Miami Dolphins have to approach this game. They got to come out early. I think they have to get the ball into their offense hands early. That means if you win the coin toss, I think you take the ball. I think you take the ball and you say, you know what, we're going to go down. And unlike what we tried to do against the Colts, which is meticulously march down the field to take their team out of it and take their fans out of it, I think the Miami Dolphins have to give the Miami Dolphins nation something to cheer about. And what better than a spicy play? What better than a long bomb or a great run by Devon Achane? Something along those lines. The Miami Dolphins have to come out swinging. I'm talking haymakers. They got to throw haymakers at the New England Patriots. You got to find a way to get the ball to Tyreek Hill. You got to find a way to get the ball to Jalen Waddle. You got to get Devon Achane in space. You got to get chunk yardage early. Get that crowd. Give them something. Give them a reason to cheer. Give them a reason to say, you know what, this was money well spent to get out of bed, roll down to the stadium, sit in this heat, in this humidity, and cheer for this team despite everything else that's going on. Give them something to cheer about. So I think you take the ball early. You take it first if you get the coin toss, but if not, you figure out a way to get Drake May on the ground and you get that ball out of their hands on defense and into the hands of Tua Tagovailoa in this offense. That's the math. That's the arithmetic. That's how you got to do it. You got to give this fan base something beyond a rivalry jersey so that they can be proud of this franchise. They can feel good about their decision to go down to the stadium and cheer this franchise on yet again. Now, how are they going to do that? Well, look, I just told you. They got to strike the secondary. Christopher Price was on the show, broke the news. Christian Gonzalez is not going to play in this game. It is now official. He is out yet again. This New England Patriots secondary can be taken advantage of. The Miami Dolphins have the tools, they have the resources, they have the assets to get after it, to get down the field and let Tua do his thing. The challenge is going to be, can they allow for those receivers to get down the field in time, especially now that we know that our starting right guard and our starting right tackle are both on injured reserve officially. Austin Jackson went on IR today, Saturday. So both of those guys are out for the next 4 weeks, but you can't even think about the next 4 weeks. You can't even think about Thursday night in Buffalo. You got to think of, in just a few hours, how do I get our backups to block, to put their body in front of the defenders on the New England Patriots defensive line, which is a pretty stout line. There's a lot of similarities in this defense right now. Front seven for the Patriots, front seven for the Dolphins. That's the strong suit. They have to get to the quarterback. They have to disrupt the timing. They have to make things chaotic for the quarterback to cover up the deficiencies of this defensive backfield. Sounds very familiar, does it not? That's what the Miami Dolphins have to do. That's their recipe for success with their defense. But you look at this defensive line for the New England Patriots. You look at the linebackers who played very well against the Raiders. Spillane played very well. Landry II, 2.5 sacks against the Raiders. That scares me. That scares me if I'm Tua Tagovailoa, because I have two backups on my blind side who didn't particularly play well or weren't even on the team, depending on if Cole Strange suits up for us or not, last week. And now I'm asking them, please do better than you did last week against probably a better defensive line. Miami's going to have to counter that. They're going to have to figure out ways to help, whether it's going to be a running back going out and chipping on their way out for a pass, or if it's going to be, max protection, and you're going to use those tight ends to help push down and block down on those defensive linemen and edge rushers. I don't know. That's not for me to figure out. That's for Mike McDaniel and his staff to figure out. But they're going to have to figure it out, because if they can figure that part out, then the Miami Dolphins have an opportunity to attack this New England Patriots defense on the back end, take the top off the defense, and score some points with Tyreek Hill, score some points with Jalen Waddle, who traditionally eats. He feasts against these New England Patriots. And I see no reason why they cannot do it in this game either, as long as Tua can stay upright. So that might mean design rollouts to the left-hand side, where Patrick Paul had himself a game against the Indianapolis Colts. Make no mistake about it. That is the strength of the offensive line. Patrick Paul, Aaron Brewer, with Jonas Savaiaina learning in the middle between the two of them. He's going to get better with each week, with each rep. It's just going to happen. We're going to need to be patient. The problem is we weren't looking to be patient while also bringing in two new guys on the right-hand side of the line. This is what Travis Wingfield talked about just a couple of weeks ago. You cannot have this starting five not start. Just too many holes start appearing, and this line starts to look like Swiss cheese, quite literally. But to the left, as Beyonce might say, to the left, everything you own in a box, to the left. Give the ball to Devon Achane, let him go left. You're in a shotgun formation, snap that ball, roll to the left. That's where you're going to get yourself extra time from that rush from your blind side. That's where you're going to get extra time with those big bulls in front of you like Patrick Paul. That's where you might have enough time to make a decision and get that ball to Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, Tyreek Hill in the passing game, and let them make somebody miss, break an ankle, and goodbye. So that's what I would do offensively. You got to commit to the run. You got to run with Devon Achane. You got to run with Ollie Gordon. Jalen Wright looks like he's going to play in this game. You have your full complement of backs. That's a good thing. But you got to run more to the left than the right. And you can't abandon it just because it doesn't work once. If you turn around and you hand the ball off to Devon Achane and he gets stuff for no gain or 1 yard, you can't just say, well, doesn't work, moving on. You can't do it. You got to commit. You got to marry the running game. For sickness or poor, sick or what is it? For richer or poor, whatever the hell. I've never been married. I don't know what the vowels are. But you got to commit to the run so that you can commit to the pass, the deep pass. There's points on the board. There's opportunity to score in this game if you're the Miami Dolphins against this defense. Now, conversely, other side of the ball, taking a look at this offense for the New England Patriots, they do have some weapons. They're young weapons. Travarion Henderson, really good running back. People forget Ramondre Stevenson, pretty dang good back the last few years. He's still there. They have a decent, very much like the Colts, just a good stable of wide receivers. Hunter Henry always kills us at the tight end position. And Drake May, young quarterback, got some wheels, can make some throws. This is the time where the Miami Dolphins need to unleash hell on this young second-year player. You got to get ways for Chop Robinson, Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, and the rest of the gang in his face. Confuse him. Make him feel like I don't belong here. I want imposter syndrome to set all the way in on Drake May. That's the key. That's going to be the key all season long for this Miami Dolphins defense until somebody in that secondary can prove us that they belong out there. Dante Trader getting a lot of praise from the defensive side of the ball, from the defensive coaches this week. I hope it's not smoke. I hope there's some fire there. It'd be nice if we could go, all right, we have Mika Fitzpatrick and Dante Trader, not just another Jag. Because the safety work in that Colts game outside of Mika Fitzpatrick, piss poor. Actually cost us that first touchdown to Michael Pittman Jr. Because the safety decided to cover a tight end that was already covered by two other people and leave his responsibility in that far corner, Michael Pittman, wide open. Touchdown. So that's it on defense. I'd like to see us blitz a little more often. I don't know that Drake May is going to be able to handle that amount of pressure early. And if you get to him early, you might be able to have a field day. You might be able to put your stamp on this game. You might be able to stop some of these rumors, some of this innuendo about the Miami Dolphins. If you walk out of this game, a home game, in all whites in September against your AFC East rival New England Patriots, if you can walk out of there with a victory, and a substantial one, I'm talking 10 points or more, you might be able to retard a little bit of this national narrative for Mike McDaniel, for Tua Tagovailoa, for Tyreek Hill, and everybody else. But if not, if you go out there and you mimic and you mirror what you did against the Indianapolis Colts, look out. That'll be it. That's going to be a bad week for everybody involved, including me. If they can't figure out a way to pay attention, if they can't figure out a way to execute better, if they can't figure out a way to game plan and just take care of business against a Patriots team that, quite frankly, the Dolphins have more talent than. Quite frankly, the Miami Dolphins should be favored in this game. And when I look at Fanduel, they are. The line has actually moved even further in their favor. If you check out Fanduel.com, go to the sportsbook, you can check it out. Not just the Miami Dolphins and New England Patriots week 2. You can check out every single game and bet it every single way imaginable. It's not just money line. It's not just the odds in terms of favored and underdogs. It's not just the over-under. Of course, we're going to talk about that, but we're talking prop bets. We're talking future bets. We're talking parlays. There's a million ways to enjoy this game this weekend. And when I look at this and I see that the Miami Dolphins are favored by 2.5, I get it. I mean, I was scratching my head a little bit earlier this week. The original line was 1.5 when it first came out. It has now moved to 2.5, probably based on the news of Christian Gonzalez not playing for the New England Patriots yet again. He's that good of a player. He's probably their best player. He's not playing. So Miami Dolphins need to take advantage of that, and they need to exploit that. The over-under is 43.5. That's a low-scoring game. That means the odds makers are not expecting a lot out of these two teams. And I get it. Look, a lot of injuries to the Miami Dolphins secondary, New England Patriots secondary, same. Young players for the New England Patriots on offense, new coach and Mike Vrabel, take some time to get everything clicking and going. I get it. The Miami Dolphins have a backup right guard and a backup right tackle starting in this game. After one game, they got 2 of their 5 starting linemen on IR. You throw all that in based on that, as well as the performances of both these teams week 1 against the Raiders and the Colts, respectively, and I get it. You're looking at this game. These are 2 bad teams, and that probably means a boring, low-scoring affair. But 43.5, just to put that in perspective, that means that the odds makers are expecting this game to be 21-22. I mean, really what they're really saying is this is probably going to be 23-20 Miami Dolphins. That's what they're really saying based on the over-under as well as the spread there between those two teams. I don't think it's going to be 23-20. I think it's going to be a little bit higher scoring than that. Because people forget, when you have 2 bad teams, that means you have an opportunity to score a lot of points, especially if the defenses are bad, which right now both of those teams don't look like they have good defenses. They have weapons on offense and 2 bad defenses. That's like somehow, sometimes two ugly people will get together and they'll have a kid and the kid is gorgeous. And you're like, how did that happen? How did those two uggos make this precious child? That's what this game might be. This might be two ugly people fornicating and creating a flower of a game, a gem. Might be a pretty baby of a game. We're going to have to find out. But you got the ugly Miami Dolphins and the ugly New England Patriots getting together in the bedroom in South Florida, turning on the music, lighting the candles, getting it on to Marvin Gaye, and we might get ourselves a high-scoring, beautiful baby of a game. That's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm thinking when I go onto Fanduel and I take a look at this line and I see Miami Dolphins favored by 2.5, over under a 43.5. I can't bet that under. I got to take the over. I got to pray and bank on the fact that these two ugly human beings, football teams, are going to fornicate and make themselves a pretty baby game, and we're going to have ourselves a fun Sunday afternoon. So bet the over. Take the 43.5 and run with it. And I'll let you know what to do with the rest of it when we come back. We're going to pay a few bills. I'm going to come back. I'm going to give you my predictions. We're going to do a little broadcast bingo. Get you set up for success. And then I'm going to give you what you should be doing with your Miami Dolphins, with the prop bets, the parlays, and of course, the spread. We'll be back right after these words. All right, welcome back. Sam Marcoux, BLEAV Network, presented by Fanduel, getting you ready, kickoff ready for week 2. The New England Patriots are coming on down to South Florida, to Miami, Florida, for the home opener of your Miami Dolphins. We talked a lot about this game, where the weaknesses are, where the strengths are. If you listen to the podcast this week, you heard from Dudley Durong, you heard from Christopher Price, and both of them gave you outstanding coverage of both of these teams, of what they got to do to win, what they need to avoid in order to avoid that loss, everything and anything you could possibly want to get you kickoff ready. All there is to do now is to go on to Fanduel, log into the sportsbook, take a look at the lines, take a look at the props, maybe get some parlays going. We're going to get you ready with broadcast bingo. Give you my prediction, my official prediction. We're going to get on out of here. So, as I talked about already, the line has moved this week. The Miami Dolphins are favored by 2.5 points over the New England Patriots. The money line right now is plus 110 if you're taking the Patriots straight up, minus 130 if you're taking the Miami Dolphins. It's not a good bet right there. I think you avoid the money line at all costs right now. And the over-under, like we talked about in the first segment, 43.5. I think you take the over. Over is the smart play right now. 43.5. I think this is going to be a higher scoring game than people think. I don't know I do know. I do know who I think is going to win this game, but I don't want to get into that yet. So let's talk about some of the props that are out there. Touchdown scores right now. Anytime touchdown for Devon Achane, minus 125. That feels like a smart bet. Devon Achane was the only guy to get into the end zone for the Miami Dolphins against the Indianapolis Colts. He was universally praised for how well he played week 1. He is the focal point of this offense week 2, in my opinion, along with Tyreek Hill, along with Jalen Waddle. Those are the 3 guys that you really need to cover if you're the New England Patriots defense, but you can't cover them all the time, every single play. I think Devon Achane, minus 125, anytime touchdown. I think I'd take that action first. If he used to get the first touchdown, that's plus 500. That's a little spicy. It's a little rich, but it could pay off well. So feel free if you're going to do that. Tyreek Hill, anytime touchdown, plus 150. I think that's also another solid play. I think Tyreek Hill needs to get into the end zone. Tyreek Hill needs to focus on football. Tyreek Hill needs to be involved early and often in the game plan so that we can get the Tyreek Hill of 2 years ago and not the Tyreek Hill of last year. I love that one. Jalen Waddle, plus 200 for an anytime touchdown. If you're going to put money on anything, you would be hard-pressed to find a better bet right now than Jalen Waddle, plus 200 for an anytime touchdown. It's plus 1,100 if he does it first. But Jalen Waddle routinely plays well against the New England Patriots. And I don't know if that's because they roll their coverage to Tyreek Hill. I'm not exactly sure why Jalen Waddle does so well against the Patriots. I just know that he does. And with that depleted secondary of the New England Patriots, you got to think one of those wide receivers, if not both, are going to have themselves a pretty decent day. So looking at this from FanDuel's perspective, plus 200, Jalen Waddle, anytime touchdown, I think that's where I'd like to go. That's where I would go. I think that's a pretty good bet. All right, let's take a look at the passing yards. So Tua Tagovailoa, right now, if you were to go on to FanDuel and take a look at this, Tua Tagovailoa, 225 plus yards, minus 140. Tua Tagovailoa, 250 yards, plus 134. Look, I keep telling everybody we got to commit to the run, but I do think Tua Tagovailoa is out there and he's got to prove something. And with Jalen Waddle doing what he does against the New England Patriots week in, week out, every single time they play, you still have Tyreek Hill out there. Devon Achane is obviously a weapon. I think Malik Washington is going to play a bigger part in this game than we are giving him credit for. I think Tua Tagovailoa goes over 250 yards in this game. That's just my personal thought. I think Tua Tagovailoa is going to come out and try to prove the doubters wrong. He's going to do it with every single throw. He's going to take his shots down the field, and then he's hopefully going to be good to it. And if it's taken away, take those intermediate routes and move the chains. So that's what I like. When I take a look at this, I like the prop bets for Tua Tagovailoa over 250 yards passing. I like the anytime touchdown from Jalen Waddle. When I look at some of the parlays that are out there, here's a 4-leg same game parlay that's out there. Devon Achane, Travion Henderson, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs. Anytime touchdowns, that's going to pay plus 4,191, almost 4,200 if you were to take that parlay. Me personally, I don't know that I'm taking that parlay. I don't know that I trust that all 4 of those individuals are going to get into the end zone in this game. I hope so, because that means the over is going to hit big time. But that's one of the parlays out there. I would avoid that one. That 4-leg parlay, same game. But here's what I'm not going to avoid. I'm not going to avoid a little bit of broadcast bingo. This is how it goes. You know how it goes. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen during the game, not necessarily the plays, not necessarily the score, but what's going to happen around what's happening during the game, what the broadcasters are going to talk about, what the producers are going to put up onto the screen, the talking points that get you from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. And every single time one of these things happens, you take a shot. And by the end of it, it'll be a game of blackout instead of a game of bingo, because all of these things tend to hit. I'm pretty sure if you go back and rewatch, if you're a glutton for punishment, the Colts and the Dolphins with the broadcast sound on, everything that I told you was going to hit in the first half of that game. So let's do an easy one, almost a free scare here. If they show Don Shula's record of wins and Bill Belichick's record of wins, take a shot. If they show a montage of Tom Brady and Dan Marino, take a shot. If they show you the record of Tua Tagovailoa against the New England Patriots, take a shot. If they show Mike McDaniel walking up and down the sidelines and they start talking about how he's on the hot seat and he may go and all that other fun stuff, take a shot. If they show highlights of Stephon Diggs when he was on the Bills, catching touchdown passes against the Miami Dolphins, take a shot. If they do some sort of graphic that shows an ambulance or some sort of medical facility and it shows all the different players of the Miami Dolphins being injured and limping and hurt, take a shot. If they show the temperature, the real temperature, and then the on-field temperature and what it feels like, take a shot. If they show Bill Parcells either on the Patriots or with the Dolphins, take a shot. Big tuna. If they show Keith Byers, former fullback for the Dolphins, former fullback for the Patriots, take a shot. If they show Mike Vrabel's record against the Miami Dolphins when he was the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, take a shot. And if they show the 1994 opener where Drew Bledsoe and Dan Marino went head-to-head in an epic Week 1 matchup in Miami that the Dolphins ultimately won with a catch to Irving Fryer, former Patriot, then current Miami Dolphin, take 2 shots. That's your game winner right there. Ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Perfectville, there is your broadcast bingo. Now, the only thing left for me to do is to tell you what I think is actually going to happen in this game. We've covered everything on FanDuel. I've told you to take the over 43.5. The Miami Dolphins are favored by 2.5. I told you how the Miami Dolphins have to attack this New England Patriots defense, what they got to do on defense to mitigate the talented but young developing weapons of the New England Patriots on offense. You got a coaching clash between Mike Vrabel, who's never lost to Mike McDaniel, and Mike McDaniel, who has pretty much always beat the Patriots. Something's got to give. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking the New England Patriots are going to try really, really hard to get their new coach, Mike Vrabel, a Patriot at heart through and through, their first win. Because what better way to really kick off his time as the head coach for the New England Patriots than to get his first win against an old rival like the Miami Dolphins. So they're going to come out and they're going to start swinging. They're going to try hard to go into Miami and really put their foot on the neck of the Miami Dolphins, put them in a hole of 0-2 and possibly get rid of a coach and have their coach go to 1-1 with his first win in the Patriots against those Miami Dolphins. So they are motivated, they being the Patriots, to get their first win this weekend on the road against a division rival. The Dolphins are dysfunctional. The Dolphins are always caught in this whirlwind of stuff outside of the football field. The Dolphins are on the national media radar because their coach is going to get fired, because they're going to trade their star wide receiver, because Tua Tagovailoa is going to be considered a $212 million bust. Stephen Ross is a bad owner. Chris Greer is a bad GM. The Dolphins are in the crosshairs of every single national and local pundit that's out there. So the Miami Dolphins are not motivated to get their first win for their head coach. They are motivated to keep their head coach employed. That's what the Miami Dolphins are playing for this weekend. They're playing for personal pride. They already had a players-only meeting after the first week. That's not a good thing, but it's happening. They understand what's out there. They understand the gravity of what's going on, that this is just grains of sand slipping through their fingers. So the Miami Dolphins are not motivated by a single win. They're motivated by career opportunities this weekend, which is why I think the Miami Dolphins are going to come out. They're going to punch the Patriots in the mouth, and they're going to take this game early, and they're going to take it over, and they're going to win this. They're going to extend the life of Mike McDaniel's coaching regime at least until Thursday by beating the New England Patriots the way they're supposed to be, by beating the AFC East opponent that's put in front of them the way they're supposed to, by throwing the ball to Tyreek Hill, by throwing the ball to Jalen Waddle, by getting the ball to Devon Achane over and over and over again, and finding ways to get the ball into the end zone early, often, and then getting the ball again and doing it all over again. So I think the Miami Dolphins win this game. I think that 46 games without scoring 30 points by the New England Patriots gets extended. I don't think they break it in Miami week 2. I think the Miami Dolphins put their stamp on this game, and I think they win 28-17. That's what I think is going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. Citizens of Perfectville, 28-17, 2-score victory, double digits. Miami Dolphins leave no doubt. They get out early. They coast to the finish line of this game, and they walk out of this saying, you know what? Shut up, national media, for at least a day. We ain't dead yet. That comes Thursday. So there you have it. There's my prediction. I predict pain for the New England Patriots. I predict a victory for your Miami Dolphins. Heading on the road, short week, Thursday night against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo in primetime. 1-1, trying to pull off a miracle. So there you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, you are now kick-off ready. In just a few hours after you listen to this, the Miami Dolphins will be playing football at home in front of a crowd that's hopefully got something to cheer for, beating the crap out of the New England Patriots, putting them back in their place, and dragging themselves out of last place and comfortably into second place of the AFC East. A man can dream, can he not? And just remember, even if I'm wrong, well, it's not really my fault. Nobody's perfect. I mean, except us, of course. So on behalf of myself, the entire BLEAV network, presented by Fanduel, the only thing left to say is goodbye from Perfectville. Later.